After my house burned down, I knocked on my son's door. My daughter-in-law whispered, "Tell her we're full." I sat on the curb, clutching my photos. Then I called the man I once refused to marry. I knocked again, 3 times, loud enough that the neighbors 2 houses down probably heard it. The porch light was on. I could see shadows moving behind the living room curtains. Jason's truck was parked in the driveway. Ruth's sedan right next to it. They were home. They knew I was standing there. Before we continue, comment where you're watching from. And subscribe to the channel. We'd love to see how far our stories are reaching. My sister Ruth opened the door just a crack. Not enough to let me in. Just enough to show me I wasn't welcome. "Gloria," she said. Not, "Oh my God, Gloria, are you okay?" Not, "Come in." We were so worried. Just my name. Flat. Cold. I stood there in clothes that still smelled like smoke. The paramedics had wrapped a blanket around my shoulders at the scene, but it didn't help. I was shaking, not from the cold, from something deeper. "I need a place to stay," I said. My voice came out smaller than I wanted. "Just for tonight. The fire department said the house is uninhabitable. The whole back half is gone." Ruth didn't move. Her hand stayed on the door, holding it exactly where it was, a barrier. She glanced back over her shoulder, and I heard Vanessa's voice from inside. Clear, loud enough for me to hear. "Tell her we're full." Ruth turned back to me. Her face had that look, the one I'd seen 100 times growing up. The look that said, "You're on your own." "We don't have space right now, Gloria. Jason's office is full of storage. Vanessa's equipment takes up the spare room. Lily's got her piano lessons set up in the den. Equipment. Vanessa's yoga mats and ring lights. That's what took priority over me. I just stood there. My hands were still gripping the shoebox I'd pulled from the wreckage. Inside were the only photos that survived. My wedding picture, Jason as a baby, Robert in his hospital scrubs before the heart attack took him, all of them burned around the edges, smelling like ash. "You could try a hotel," Ruth said. "There's a Comfort Inn off Highway 9. A hotel. She was telling me to go to a hotel, after 68 years of being her sister, after raising the nephew she claimed to love, after working myself to the bone so he could have a future. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just turned around and walked back down the driveway. I sat down on the curb under the streetlight, right there in front of Jason's house, in full view of anyone driving by. Let the neighbors see. Let them wonder why Gloria Bennett was sitting on the street like a vagrant. I opened the shoebox. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped it. The photo on top was from 1978. Me and Carl Withers at the county fair. We were 22. He had his arm around my waist. I was laughing at something he'd said. We looked happy. We were happy. 3 weeks after that photo was taken, he asked me to marry him, down on one knee in front of the Ferris wheel. He had the ring and everything. A little silver band with a chip of a diamond that probably cost him a month's paycheck. I said no. Not because I didn't love him. I did. More than I knew how to say. But my mother was dying. Stage 4, pancreatic cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months. She needed me. Someone had to take care of her. Someone had to be there when the pain got so bad she couldn't get out of bed. Carl waited 2 months. Then he met someone else, a girl from the next town over. They got married that same year. I stayed home and watched my mother waste away for another 14 months. She died in 1980. By then, Carl had moved to Charleston for work. I never saw him again. I met Robert 6 months later. He was a good man, steady, kind. He didn't make my heart race the way Carl did, but he was there. That counted for something. We got married in 1982. Jason came the next year. I thought I'd made the right choice. I thought sacrificing love for duty was what good daughters did. Good mothers. Good women. Now I was sitting on a curb outside my son's house, and he couldn't even open the door. I pulled out my phone. My hands were still shaking. I scrolled through my contacts until I found the number I'd saved 6 months ago. I'd found it online during one of those late nights when I couldn't sleep, when I'd typed his name into the search bar just to see what came up. Carl Withers, attorney, retired, widowed in 2021. I stared at the screen for a long time, 46 years. That's how long it had been since I'd heard his voice, since I'd said no and watched him walk away. I pressed the call button. It rang once, twice. He answered on the third ring. "Hello?" His voice was the same, a little rougher, a little older, but the same. "Carl?" My voice broke. "It's Gloria." Silence, not the empty kind, the kind filled with 1,000 unspoken things. "Gloria?" he said. "After all these years?" I tried to answer, but all that came out was a sob. One of those ugly, choking sobs that you can't control. I pressed my hand over my mouth, but it didn't help. "Gloria, what's wrong? Where are you?" "My house burned down," I whispered. "I knocked on my son's door, and he wouldn't let me in. My sister told me to go to a hotel. Carl, I don't have anywhere to go." Another silence, but this one was different. I could hear him breathing, thinking. "Send me your address," he said. "I'm coming to get you. Don't move." I hung up and stared at the screen until it went dark. I couldn't believe what I'd just done. Called Carl Withers after 46 years. The man I'd refused. The man I'd loved more than any other. But what hurt most wasn't the fire. It wasn't the charred walls or the destroyed furniture. It was the look on Ruth's face when she opened that door. Coldness. Indifference. Like I was a stranger begging for scraps. And Vanessa's voice from inside. "Tell her we're full." Like I was a problem. A burden. Something disposable. I sat there on that curb, holding that box of burned photos, and I started remembering everything I'd done for them. Every penny. Every sacrifice. Every night I'd stayed awake worrying if they were okay. When Jason was 16, he broke his arm playing football. $2,400 in medical bills the insurance didn't cover. Robert and I paid every cent. Vanessa wasn't even in our lives yet. But I was already saving every penny for his future. When Jason went to college, we sold the extra car to help with tuition. I worked night shifts at the hospital for 18 years. 18 years. Every 12-hour shift, every holiday away from home, every time I came home with my back aching and my feet swollen, I thought, it's for Jason, so he can have a better life. $87,000. That was the total amount of his student loans that Robert and I paid off. $87,000. We finished paying in 2021, 3 years after he graduated. He never thanked me. Not once. To him, it was an obligation. A mother's duty. And now I was sitting here, homeless, with nothing, and he wouldn't even open the door. I looked to the side and saw my granddaughter, Lily, peeking through the living room curtain. She was 8 years old, curly hair just like Jason's when he was little. She saw me sitting on the curb and looked down. She didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just let the curtain fall and disappeared. That's when I understood. It wasn't just Jason. It wasn't just Vanessa. It was Ruth, too, my own sister. She'd been living with them for 6 months, ever since her husband died. She was in there, a silent accomplice letting them treat me like garbage. Family. That word didn't mean anything anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Carl. "Leaving Charleston now. I'll be there in 40 minutes. Hold on. 40 minutes. I had 40 minutes to decide if I was really going to do this. If I was really going to accept help from the man I'd refused nearly half a century ago. But what choice did I have? I stared at Jason's window. The lights were on. I could hear the TV. They were in there, comfortable, watching some stupid show, while I was out here homeless, destroyed. I thought about knocking on the door again. I thought about begging, but no. I had a shred of dignity left. I wasn't going to give them that satisfaction, so I just sat there, waiting, with that box of photos in my lap, with the smell of smoke still in my clothes, with my heart broken into pieces so small I didn't know if they could ever be put back together. At 68 years old, I'd discovered a terrible truth. You can give your whole life to someone and, in the end, mean nothing to them. Absolutely nothing. And the most painful part? I still loved my son, despite everything, despite the closed door and the cold words and the contempt. I still loved that little boy who once hugged me tight and said I was the best mom in the world. But he didn't exist anymore. The man inside that house was a stranger. Headlights turned the corner. Bright, getting closer. A silver sedan pulled up to the curb and stopped right in front of me. The driver's door opened and a man stepped out. Carl Withers. He was 70 now, gray hair, lines around his eyes, but his face was the same, Those same eyes that used to look at me like I was the only person in the world. He walked toward me slowly, not running, not rushing, just steady, deliberate, like he had all the time in the world. When he got close enough, he stopped and looked down at me. I looked up at him. We didn't say anything for a long moment. We just looked at each other. Two people who'd loved each other once and then let life pull them apart. Gloria, he said quietly. You look like hell. I laughed. Or maybe I cried. I couldn't tell anymore. He held out his hand. Come on, let's get you out of here. I took his hand. It was warm, strong, steady. He pulled me to my feet, and I stood there for a second, swaying slightly. He reached out and steadied me, his hand on my elbow. My stuff, I said, gesturing weakly at the shoebox. I've got it. He bent down and picked it up. Then he looked past me at Jason's house, at the lit windows, at the closed door. His jaw tightened. That your son's place? He asked. Yeah. He know you're out here? Yeah. Carl didn't say anything else. He just guided me toward his car, opened the passenger door and helped me in. He put the shoebox on my lap. Then he walked around to the driver's side and got in. Before he started the engine, he turned to me. You hungry? He asked. I shook my head. You need anything? Medicine? Clothes? I just need to sleep, I whispered. I'm so tired, Carl. He nodded. Okay, we'll get you to my place. You can rest. And tomorrow, we'll figure everything out. He started the car and pulled away from the curb. I looked back one last time at Jason's house. The lights were still on. The TV was still playing. Nothing had changed for them, but everything had changed for me. When Carl pulled up, he said 3 words that made my son freeze. I woke up in a bed that wasn't mine. Clean white sheets. The smell of coffee coming from somewhere downstairs. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then it all came rushing back. The fire. The closed door. Ruth's cold face. Carl. I sat up slowly. My whole body ached. Not from injuries. From exhaustion. From carrying too much for too long. The room was small but neat. A guest bedroom. There was a dresser with a mirror. A chair in the corner with clothes folded on it. Women's clothes. A pair of jeans. A sweater. Socks. I got up and walked to the window. Carl's house was in a quiet neighborhood in Charleston. Tree-lined streets. Modest homes. Nothing fancy. The kind of place where people mowed their lawns on Saturdays and waved to their neighbors. My phone was on the nightstand. I picked it up. 7 missed calls from Jason. 3 from Ruth. 2 voicemails. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I opened my banking app. Something had been nagging at me since yesterday. A feeling. An itch in the back of my mind that something wasn't right. I pulled up my checking account. The joint account I'd set up years ago so Jason could help me if I ever got sick. So he could pay bills if something happened to me. It was supposed to be for emergencies. I scrolled through the transactions. My heart started pounding. March 19th. Withdrawal. $14,000. 3 days before the fire. Jason had taken $14,000 from my account. $14,000. In one transaction. Without asking. Without telling me. I sat down on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking again. I kept scrolling. There were other withdrawals. Smaller ones. $200 here. $500 there. Going back months. All of them made by Jason. He'd been draining my account. Slowly. Quietly. Hoping I wouldn't notice. I did the math in my head. Over the past 6 months, he'd taken almost $22,000. $22,000. I pressed my hand to my chest. It felt like someone was squeezing my heart. There was a knock on the door. Gloria? Carl's voice. Soft. Careful. You awake? Yeah, I managed to say. Come in. The door opened, and Carl stepped inside. He was holding a mug of coffee. He took one look at my face and set the mug down on the dresser. What happened? He asked. I held up my phone. Jason took $14,000 from my account 3 days before the fire. Carl's expression didn't change, but something hardened in his eyes. He sat down in the chair across from me. Show me, he said. I handed him the phone. He scrolled through the transactions, his jaw getting tighter with each one. He's been taking money for months, Carl said quietly. Did you know? No. My voice cracked. I didn't check. I trusted him. Carl handed the phone back. What did he spend it on? I don't know. But even as I said it, I remembered something. Last week, before the fire, I'd seen Vanessa's Instagram. She'd posted a picture of herself standing next to a brand new white van. A Mercedes Sprinter. The caption said, "Worked so hard for this. Dreams do come true." I pulled up Instagram on my phone, found Vanessa's profile, scrolled until I found the post. There it was. Posted March 21st. 2 days after Jason took the money. 2 days before my house burned down. The van had a price tag in the dealer lot visible in the background. $2,800. I showed Carl the picture. He stared at it for a long time. Then he looked at me. "Gloria," he said carefully, "I need to ask you something, and I need you to think hard before you answer." "What? Do you think the fire was an accident?" The question hung in the air between us. I wanted to say yes. I wanted to believe that my son, no matter how selfish, no matter how greedy, would never do something like that. But I couldn't. "I don't know," I whispered. Carl stood up and walked to the window. He looked out at the quiet street for a moment. "Where were you when the fire started?" he asked. "In the garage." I'd been staying there temporarily. My house had some structural problems, so Jason said I could stay with them until it was fixed. But Vanessa didn't want me in the main house. She said it would be too crowded, so they set up a cot in the garage. Carl turned around. "You were living in their garage?" "Just for a few weeks." "And where were you the night before the fire?" "At my house. I went back to check on the repairs. I was going to sleep there, but the power was out. So I decided to come back to Jason's the next morning." And did anyone know you weren't going to be in the garage that night?" I thought about it. I told Ruth. She was at the house when I left. Carl nodded slowly. "And Ruth lives with Jason and Vanessa." "Yeah. She moved in 6 months ago after her husband died. So Ruth, Jason, and Vanessa all knew you weren't going to be there that night." The implication hit me like a punch to the stomach. "You think they did it on purpose," I said. "You think they tried to kill me." "I think," Carl said carefully, "that we need to find out exactly what happened. And we need to do it fast, before they have time to cover their tracks." I started crying. Not the loud, messy kind. The quiet kind. The kind that hurts worse because you're trying so hard to hold it in. Carl came over and sat next to me. He didn't try to hug me. He just sat there. Close enough that I could feel his presence. Solid. Real. "I gave him everything," I whispered. "I worked night shifts for 18 years to pay for his college. 18 years, Carl. I'd come home at 6 a.m. with my feet swollen and my back screaming, and I'd make him breakfast before school. I'd help him with his homework, even though I was so tired I could barely keep my eyes open. I wiped my eyes with the back of my hand. When he was 16, he broke his arm. $2,400 in medical bills. Robert and I paid every cent. When he wanted to go to that expensive summer camp, we paid for it. When he needed a car for college, we bought it. $87,000 in student loans. We paid all of it. Every single dollar. My voice was getting louder now, angrier. I sold my graduation ring to buy his textbooks. It was my mother's ring. She gave it to me before she died. It was worth $200. I sold it so he could have new books instead of used ones. And you know what he did? He never even thanked me. Not once. I pulled out my phone again and showed Carl another Instagram post. This one was from 2 weeks ago. Vanessa posing with a designer handbag. Louis Vuitton. The caption, "Treating myself because I deserve it." "That bag costs $3,200, I said. $3,200. More than twice what my mother's ring was worth. She's spending my money on purses while I was sleeping in their garage. Carl looked at the photo for a long time. Then he stood up. "Get dressed," he said. "We're going somewhere." "Where?" "To see a friend of mine. He's a fire investigator. Retired, but he still does private consulting. If that fire wasn't an accident, he'll be able to tell us." I looked down at my hands. They were still shaking. "What if you're right?" I asked quietly. "What if they really did try to kill me? What am I supposed to do with that?" Carl knelt down in front of me so we were eye to eye. Then we make sure they pay for it, he said. Every last cent. I got dressed in the clothes Carl had left for me. They fit well enough. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked old, tired, beaten down. But there was something else there too. Something I hadn't seen in a long time. Anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The cold kind. The kind that burns slow and steady and doesn't go out. When I came downstairs, Carl was in the kitchen making eggs. He handed me a plate without a word. I sat at the table and ate. It was the first real food I'd had in 2 days. My phone buzzed. Another call from Jason. I let it ring. Then a text came through. Mom, please call me back. We need to talk. There's been a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. That's what he was calling it. I showed Carl the text. He read it and shook his head. Don't respond, he said. Not yet. Not until we know what we're dealing with. I set the phone down. Carl, I said quietly, why are you helping me? After everything. After I said no all those years ago. Why would you do this? He was quiet for a moment. Then he sat down across from me. Because, he said simply, I never stopped caring about you. Even after you married Robert. Even after I married Susan. I always wondered if you were okay. If you were happy. He looked at me with those same eyes I remembered from 46 years ago. And when you called me last night, sitting on that curb, I knew you weren't okay. So here I am. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just nodded. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Ruth. Gloria, Jason told me you left with some man last night. Who is he? Where are you? We're worried about you. Worried. Right. I showed Carl the message. They're scared, he said. They know you found out about the money. They're trying to figure out what you know and what you're going to do about it. What am I going to do about it? Carl smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. We're going to find out the truth, and then we're going to make them wish they'd opened that door. We got in Carl's car and drove across town. The fire investigator's name was Marcus Webb. He lived in a small house with a workshop in the back. Carl had called ahead, so Marcus was expecting us. He was a broad-shouldered black man in his 60s with kind eyes and calloused hands. Carl tells me you had a house fire, Marcus said, shaking my hand. I'm sorry to hear that. Thank you, I said. And you think it might not have been accidental? I hesitated. I don't know. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Marcus smiled gently. In my experience, people are rarely paranoid about this kind of thing. If your gut is telling you something's wrong, it usually is. Tell me what happened. So I did. I told him about living in the garage, about the fire starting in the middle of the night, about Jason taking $14,000 3 days before, about Vanessa's new van. Marcus listened carefully, taking notes. Where was the point of origin? He asked. Where did the fire start? The garage, I said. That's what the fire department told me. Marcus and Carl exchanged a look. And that's where you were staying, Marcus said. Yes, but you weren't there the night of the fire. No, I went back to my house to check on repairs. And who knew you weren't going to be there? My sister Ruth. She lives with Jason and Vanessa. Marcus nodded slowly. He pulled out a business card and handed it to me. I need to see the fire report, he said, and I need to inspect the scene. If this was arson, there'll be evidence. Accelerants leave traces. Ignition patterns tell a story. Give me 48 hours and I'll tell you exactly what happened. I took the card. My hand was shaking again. What if it was them? I whispered. What if my own son tried to kill me? Marcus looked at me with those kind, sad eyes. Then we make sure he doesn't get away with it, he said. We drove back to Carl's house in silence. I stared out the window, watching the city go by, thinking about Jason as a little boy, the way he used to climb into my lap when he had bad dreams, the way he'd hold my hand crossing the street. When did that boy turn into a man who could steal from me? Who could lock me out? Who could maybe, possibly burn down my house while I was supposed to be inside? When we pulled into Carl's driveway, there was a car parked on the street, a black sedan I didn't recognize. Carl tensed. Stay here, he said, but before he could get out, The driver's door of the sedan opened. Jason stepped out. My son, standing there in my ex-boyfriend's driveway, looking at me through the windshield with an expression I couldn't read. Carl's hand moved to the door handle. You want me to tell him to leave? I looked at Jason, at the man who used to be my little boy, at the stranger who'd taken my money and closed the door in my face. No, I said quietly. Let's hear what he has to say. We got out of the car. Jason walked toward us slowly. He looked tired, guilty, scared. Mom, he said, we need to talk. About what? I asked. My voice was cold, flat. I barely recognized it as my own. About the money, he said. I can explain. Carl stepped slightly in front of me, protective. I think you'd better start explaining then. Jason looked at Carl, then at me, then back at Carl. Who is this? Jason asked. Someone who actually cares about me, I said. Jason flinched. Mom, I care about you. You know I do. There's just been some misunderstandings. $22,000 worth of misunderstandings? I asked. That's how much you took from my account, Jason. $22,000. Without asking, without telling me. Jason's face went pale. You looked at the account. Of course I looked at the account. It's my money. I was going to pay you back, he said quickly. I just needed it for a few months, just to get through some bills. Vanessa's business has been slow, and we had some unexpected expenses, like a $28,500 van, I asked. Jason stopped talking. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. How did you? She posted it on Instagram, I said, 2 days after you stole $14,000 from me. 2 days before my house burned down. The words hung in the air. Jason's eyes went wide. Mom, he said, you don't think… What am I supposed to think, Jason? You take my money. You lock me out of your house when I have nowhere to go. And then my house conveniently burns down while I'm not there. You tell me what I'm supposed to think. It was an accident, Jason said desperately. Mom, I swear it was just an old house with bad wiring. It wasn't… We'll see about that, Carl said quietly. I've got a fire investigator looking into it. If it was arson, he'll know. And if it was arson, the police will know. And then you're going to have much bigger problems than your mother being mad at you. Jason's face went from pale to gray. He looked at me with something that might have been fear. Mom, please. You have to believe me. I would never… Get off my property, Carl said. This isn't your property, Jason shot back. This is between me and my mother. Wrong, Carl said. She's staying here now, which makes it my property. And I'm telling you to leave. Jason looked at me one more time. Mom. Go home, Jason, I said quietly. He stood there for another moment. Then he turned and walked back to his car. He got in, started the engine, but before he drove away, he rolled down the window. You're making a mistake, he called out. Listening to this guy instead of your own son. You're going to regret this. Then he was gone. I stood there in Carl's driveway, watching my son's car disappear around the corner. My whole body was shaking. Carl put his hand on my shoulder. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. We went inside. I sat at the kitchen table while Carl made tea. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Text after text after text. From Jason. Mom, please. We need to talk about this like adults. From Ruth. Gloria, you're scaring us. Jason says you're making wild accusations. This isn't like you. From Vanessa. I don't know what lies this man is filling your head with, but you need to come home. Family takes care of family. Family takes care of family. I almost laughed. Instead, I turned off my phone and set it face down on the table. What now? I asked Carl. Now we wait, he said. Marcus will call us in 48 hours with his findings. In the meantime, you rest, you eat, you take care of yourself. He poured the tea and sat down across from me. And Gloria? Yeah? Whatever happens next, you're not alone anymore. You understand that? I looked at him. At this man who'd loved me 46 years ago and somehow, impossibly, still cared enough to help me now. Yeah, I whispered. I understand. But even as I said it, I couldn't shake the feeling that something much worse was coming. That Jason's visit was just the beginning. That whatever they'd done, whatever they were hiding, they weren't going to let me find out without a fight. And I was right. Marcus called 2 days later. I was in Carl's kitchen making coffee when my phone rang. I knew from the caller ID it was him. I stood there staring at the screen for 3 rings before I answered. Hello? Mrs. Bennett, it's Marcus Webb. Do you have a minute to talk? My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Yes? I've reviewed the fire marshal's report and inspected the scene myself. I need to tell you something, and I need you to sit down first. I pulled out a chair and sat. Carl came into the kitchen and stood next to me. I put the phone on speaker. I'm sitting, I said. Marcus took a breath. The fire was intentionally set. No question about it. I found clear evidence of an accelerant, gasoline, poured in a line from the garage door to the area where your cot was set up. The ignition pattern indicates it was lit from the doorway, which gave the perpetrator time to exit before the flames spread. The room tilted. Carl's hand gripped my shoulder, steadying me. Are you sure? I whispered. I've been doing this for 30 years, Mrs. Bennett. I'm sure. Someone wanted that garage to burn, and they wanted it to burn with you inside. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Someone tried to kill me. My own family tried to kill me. What do I do? I asked. You call the police, Marcus said. I'm sending my full report to you and to the fire marshal today. They'll open a criminal investigation. With the financial motive and the evidence I found, they'll have enough to start asking questions. After I hung up, I just sat there. Carl knelt down in front of me. Gloria, look at me. I looked at him. His face was blurry. I realized I was crying. We're going to get through this, he said. I promise you, we're going to find out who did this, and they're going to pay. It was Jason, I whispered. Or Ruth, or both of them. Who else could it be? Carl didn't answer. He just pulled me into his arms and let me cry. Later that afternoon, Carl brought a wooden box into the living room. It was old, worn at the edges, with a simple brass latch. I want to show you something, he said. He sat down next to me on the couch and opened the box. Inside were letters, dozens of them, all addressed to Carl in my handwriting. I stared at them. You kept them? Every single one, Carl said quietly. You sent me a Christmas card in 1979, a year after we broke up. Just a card with a short note. Then another one in 1981. Then birthday cards. Every few years you'd send something. Just a line or two. Hope you're well. Life is good here. Take care. He pulled out one of the letters and handed it to me. This one's from 1982. You wrote it right after Jason was born. I unfolded the yellowed paper. My own handwriting stared back at me, younger and steadier than it was now. Dear Carl, I had a baby boy. His name is Jason. He's perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, and the loudest cry you've ever heard. Robert is over the moon. But I have to tell you something strange. When the nurse brought in a candle for my birthday cake, Jason started screaming. Not normal crying, terrified screaming. The doctor said some babies are just sensitive to fire. Robert thinks he'll grow out of it. I hope he's right. Anyway, I hope you're doing well. I heard you got married. I'm happy for you. Take care, Gloria. I read it twice, 3 times. My hands started shaking. Jason was afraid of fire, I said. Carl nodded slowly. As a baby, yes. So he wouldn't... I stopped. He wouldn't use fire to hurt someone, would he? I don't know, Carl said. People change, especially when they're desperate. But I was already shaking my head. No, Jason didn't do this. He couldn't have. He's weak, yes. He's selfish, but he's not a murderer. Then who? Carl asked gently. Vanessa, I said immediately. Or Ruth. Ruth's been living off Jason since her husband died. She depends on him. If they thought I was going to cut Jason off financially, Ruth would lose her home too. Carl pulled out another letter. This one's from 2019, right after Robert died. I took it. Read it. Carl, Robert's gone. Heart attack. He was 64. I'm alone now. Jason has his own life, his own family. I'm proud of him, but I miss the days when he needed me. When he'd curl up in my lap and tell me about his day. Now he only calls when he needs something. Money, usually. I give it to him because I'm afraid if I don't, I'll lose him completely, but I think I've already lost him. I think I lost him a long time ago. Anyway, I'm rambling. I hope you're well. Gloria. I set the letter down. You read all of these? Every word, Carl said. You were married to another man for 37 years, and I still read every word you sent me, because even when you weren't mine, I still cared. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who'd waited, who'd kept my letters, who'd come for me when I had nowhere else to go. Why didn't you ever write back? I asked. Because you made your choice, he said simply. You chose Robert. You chose your mother. You chose duty over us. I respected that, but I never stopped hoping that someday maybe you'd choose me. My phone rang. The police. I answered. Mrs. Bennett, this is Detective Sarah Chen with Nashville Metro. I've received a report from fire investigator Marcus Webb regarding a fire at your property on March 22nd. I'd like to ask you some questions. Of course, I said. Mr. Webb's report indicates the fire was intentionally set. He also mentions you have reason to believe a family member may be involved. Is that correct? I looked at Carl. He nodded. Yes, I said. My son Jason took $22,000 from my joint bank account in the weeks leading up to the fire. 3 days before the fire, he withdrew $14,000 and his wife bought a new van. I was supposed to be sleeping in the garage the night of the fire, but I wasn't there. My sister Ruth knew I wasn't going to be there. She lives with my son. There was a pause. And where are you staying now, Mrs. Bennett? With a friend. I'm going to need to speak with you in person. Can you come to the station tomorrow at 10 a.m.? Yes. And Mrs. Bennett, don't contact your son or your sister. If they're involved, we don't want to tip them off that we're investigating. After I hung up, I sat there staring at nothing. Tomorrow, I said. Tomorrow I have to tell the police that my son might have tried to murder me. Carl took my hand. You're doing the right thing. Am I? I looked at him. What if I'm wrong? What if it was just bad wiring, and Marcus made a mistake, and I'm about to destroy my son's life over nothing? Gloria, you saw the bank records. You heard Marcus. This wasn't an accident. I knew he was right, but knowing and accepting are two different things. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Carl's guest bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about Jason as a baby, the way he'd grab my finger with his tiny hand, the way he'd smile when I sang to him. At 2 a.m., I got up and went downstairs. Carl was in the kitchen. He couldn't sleep either. Want some tea? He asked. Yeah. We sat at the table in silence. Finally, Carl spoke. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Okay. If it turns out Jason did this, if he really did try to kill you, what are you going to do? I thought about it for a long time. I don't know, I said finally. He's my son, but he tried to murder me. How do I live with that? You live with it by making sure he faces consequences, Carl said. You live with it by not letting him get away with it. You live with it by choosing yourself for once, instead of him. I've always chosen him, I whispered. My whole life. Every decision. Every sacrifice. It was always for Jason. And look where it got you, Carl said gently. Homeless. Nearly murdered. Sitting in a stranger's kitchen at 2 a.m. You're not a stranger. I was, for 46 years. He was right. I'd given everything to Jason. My money. My time. My life. And he'd repaid me by trying to kill me. Carl, I said quietly. Yeah? Do you ever regret it? Asking me to marry you back then? He smiled. Every day for about 10 years. Then I stopped regretting it and started accepting it. You made your choice. I made mine. We both lived with it. But if you could go back, I'd ask you again, he said. I'd ask you 100 times, because you were worth it then, and you're worth it now. I started crying, not because I was sad, because for the first time in 46 years, someone was telling me I was worth something. The next morning, we drove to the police station. Detective Chen was a small woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She took my statement for 2 hours, recording everything, the money, the fire, the closed door, all of it. We're going to investigate, she said when we were done. We'll interview your son, your sister, and your daughter-in-law. We'll examine phone records and financial records. If they did this, Mrs. Bennett, we'll find out. How long will it take? I asked. Could be weeks. Could be months. These things take time. Weeks. Months. I'd have to wait weeks or months to know if my own son tried to kill me. We left the station and got back in Carl's car. I felt numb. Empty. What now? I asked. Now we wait, Carl said. And while we wait, we make sure you're protected. Protected from what? He looked at me. From your family, Gloria. If they tried once, they might try again. The thought hadn't occurred to me, but now that he said it, I realized he was right. If Jason or Ruth or Vanessa thought I was going to expose them, what would stop them from trying again? I'm changing my will, I said suddenly. What? My will. Right now, everything goes to Jason, but I'm changing it. I'm leaving everything to Lily, my granddaughter. She's only 8. She didn't ask for any of this. Carl nodded. That's smart. But Gloria, if you change your will now, Jason will know something's wrong. Good, I said. Let him know. Let him panic. Let him wonder what I'm going to do next. For the first time since the fire, I felt something other than fear or sadness. I felt power. I signed the new will 3 days later. Patricia had everything ready. 1 signature, and Jason was out. Everything I had, the house insurance payout, my savings, Robert's life insurance, my pension, all of it would go to Lily when I died. Are you sure about this? Patricia asked as I held the pen. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, I said. Carl was there as a witness. So was Patricia's paralegal, a quiet man named Tom who nodded respectfully when I finished signing. It's done, Patricia said. Your granddaughter is now your sole beneficiary. If anyone contests this will, they'll have a hard time. You're clearly of sound mind, and we have multiple witnesses. I stood up. My legs felt shaky, but not from fear, from relief. Thank you, I said. One more thing, Patricia said. She pulled out another document. This is a restraining order petition. Given the circumstances, the fire, the financial fraud, I think you should consider filing it against your son and daughter-in-law. I looked at Carl. He nodded. Do it, I said. 4 days later, I got the call. It was Patricia. Gloria, your daughter-in-law just tried to access your estate documents at the county clerk's office. She claimed she was acting on your behalf. When they asked for authorization, she got aggressive. They denied her access. I sat down hard. When? 20 minutes ago. I wanted you to know in case she tries to contact you. She did. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. Vanessa. I didn't answer. She called again and again. Then Ruth called. Then Jason. I turned my phone to silent and set it face down on the table. They know, I said to Carl. Good, he said. Let them panic. That afternoon, I had to go to the grocery store. Carl offered to come with me, but I said no. I needed to do normal things. I needed to feel like my life wasn't completely controlled by fear. I was in the parking lot putting bags in the trunk when I heard her voice. Gloria! I turned around. Vanessa was walking toward me fast. Her face was red. Her hands were balled into fists. We need to talk, she said. No, we don't. Yes, we do. She got close. Too close. I could smell her perfume, expensive and cloying. What the hell do you think you're doing? I don't know what you're talking about. The will, she hissed. You changed your will. You cut Jason out. That's none of your business. The hell it isn't. That money belongs to us. We've been taking care of you for years. I laughed. Actually laughed. Taking care of me? You made me sleep in your garage, Vanessa. You locked me out when my house burned down. That's not taking care of someone. Because you were being crazy, accusing us of stealing from you. You did steal from me. $22,000. Her face went pale, then red again. That was a loan. Jason was going to pay you back. With what? More of my money? People were starting to stare. A woman with a shopping cart had stopped to watch. Another woman was getting out of her car, her phone already in her hand. Vanessa noticed them too. She lowered her voice, but the venom was still there. You're making a huge mistake, she said. Jason is your son. Your only son. You leave everything to some kid who doesn't even know you, and you cut him out? What kind of mother does that? The kind whose son tried to kill her, I said quietly. Vanessa's eyes went wide. What are you talking about? The fire was arson, Vanessa. Someone poured gasoline in that garage and lit it on fire, the night I was supposed to be sleeping there. You're insane, she whispered. You're a paranoid old woman and you're destroying this family with your crazy accusations. Then explain the money, I said. Explain the $14,000 Jason took 3 days before the fire. Explain your brand new van that cost almost $30,000. She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I worked for that van, she finally said. Doing what? Posting yoga videos on Instagram? How many followers do you have again? 2,000? That doesn't pay for a Mercedes Sprinter, Vanessa. Her hand twitched. For a second, I thought she was going to hit me. But then she saw the woman with the phone, recording everything. You're going to regret this, Vanessa said quietly. You're going to die alone, and no one is going to care. And when Lily grows up, she's going to hate you for turning her against her own father. Are you threatening me? I asked. I'm telling you the truth. She turned and walked away, fast, almost running. She got in her car and drove off, tires squealing. The woman with the phone came over to me. Are you okay? She asked. I'm fine, I said, but thank you. I got the whole thing on video, she said. That woman was way out of line. Do you want me to send it to you? I hesitated. Then I said, yes, please. She texted me the video. I watched it right there in the parking lot. Vanessa's red face, her raised voice, her threats. This is going to the police, I said to myself. The woman whose name I learned was Marge nodded. Good. That kind of behavior is unacceptable. I hope you're somewhere safe. I am, I said. Thank you. When I got back to Carl's house, I showed him the video. He watched it twice. Send it to Detective Chen, he said, and forward it to Patricia. This is harassment. This is witness intimidation. This is evidence. I did. Detective Chen called me back within an hour. Mrs. Bennett, this video changes things. I'm going to recommend charges against Vanessa Brooks for harassment and intimidation. We're also going to accelerate the investigation into the fire. Can you come in tomorrow to make another statement? Yes, I said. That night, Carl installed security cameras outside his house, 2 by the front door, 2 in the back, 1 in the driveway. If they come here, he said, I want proof. You think they will? I think desperate people do desperate things. He was right. 2 nights later, at 3 a.m., the cameras caught someone walking up the driveway. A man, wearing a hoodie. He walked right up to Carl's front door and stood there for a full minute, just looking at it. Then he tried the handle. It was locked. He tried again. Then he kicked the door. Hard. Carl was already on the phone with 911. I stood at the top of the stairs, holding a baseball bat I'd found in the hall closet, my heart hammering. The man outside kicked the door again. Then he saw the camera. He looked right at it, pulled down his hood. It was Jason, my son, standing on Carl's porch at 3 a.m., trying to break in. He stood there for another moment, staring at the camera. Then he turned and ran. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They took the footage, ran the plates on Jason's truck parked 2 blocks away. Took statements from me and Carl. We'll be issuing an arrest warrant, the officer said. Attempted breaking and entering, criminal trespassing. Combined with the other evidence, this is serious. After they left, I sat on the couch and cried. Not sad crying, angry crying. He tried to break in, I said. My own son tried to break into this house. To do what? Hurt me? Threaten me? Carl sat next to me. He's scared. The walls are closing in and he's panicking. I don't care if he's scared. He tried to kill me. He stole from me. And now he's stalking me. I know. How did I raise someone like this? I asked. What did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong, Carl said firmly. You gave him everything. You sacrificed everything. He made his own choices. This is on him, not you. But it didn't feel that way. It felt like I'd failed. Like somewhere along the line, I'd turned my sweet little boy into this stranger who could lie and steal and burn and break. The next day, Marge called me, the woman from the parking lot. I thought you should know, she said. That video I took? Someone posted it on Facebook. It's going around. Everyone in Nashville has seen it by now. My stomach dropped. What? Yeah. Someone must have screen recorded it from my phone and shared it. It's got like 50,000 views. People are not happy with your daughter-in-law. I looked it up. She was right. The video was everywhere. Local news sites had picked it up. Daughter-in-law confronts elderly woman in grocery store parking lot. The comments were brutal. This is elder abuse. That woman should be ashamed of herself. Someone find out who she is and report her. And someone did. By that evening, Vanessa's full name was in the comments, her Instagram handle, her business page. I watched in real time as her follower count dropped. 3,200 followers, 3,100, 2,900, 2,500. People were leaving comments on her posts. Abuser. Shame on you. You should be arrested. By the next morning, she'd deleted her Instagram entirely. Carl showed me the news. Local influencer under fire after viral video shows confrontation with elderly woman. Is this what you wanted? He asked gently. I don't know, I said honestly. I just wanted them to leave me alone. They won't, Carl said. Not until they're behind bars, or until they realize they've lost. 3 days later, Detective Chen called. Mrs. Bennett, we've made an arrest. Vanessa Brooks has been charged with attempted arson and attempted murder. We found evidence on her phone, text messages to a friend where she discussed getting rid of the old woman. We also found a gas can in her garage that matches the accelerant used in your fire. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Jason is being brought in for questioning, Chen continued. We believe he knew about the plan but didn't participate directly. He's looking at charges of accessory to attempted murder and financial fraud. And Ruth? I asked. No evidence she was involved. She's cooperating with the investigation. After I hung up, I just sat there. Vanessa had tried to kill me, my daughter-in-law, the woman I'd welcomed into my family, the woman I'd helped financially, the woman who smiled at me across the dinner table and called me Mom. She'd poured gasoline in that garage and lit a match, knowing I was supposed to be sleeping there. It's over, Carl said quietly. No, I said. It's not over until she's convicted, until Jason faces what he did, until I know Lily is safe. She will be, Carl said. We'll make sure of it. That night, Ruth called. I answered. Gloria, she said. Her voice was shaking. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what Vanessa was planning. If I'd known, you would have what? I asked. Stopped her? Or helped her? I would have stopped her. Gloria, you're my sister. I'd never… You locked me out, I said quietly. That night, when I came to the door with nothing but the clothes on my back, you locked me out. Ruth was crying now. I was scared. Vanessa said if we let you in, you'd try to control everything. She said you were manipulating Jason. She said, she lied, I said, and you believed her instead of me. I'm sorry, Ruth sobbed. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said, but sorry doesn't fix this. I hung up. Carl looked at me. You okay? No, I said, but I will be. Jason came to the house 4 days after Vanessa's arrest. He didn't call first. He just showed up at the door at 6 p.m., looking like he hadn't slept in days. Carl answered. I heard them talking in low voices. Then Carl came to get me. He wants to talk to you, Carl said. I can tell him to leave. No, I said. Let him in. Jason walked into the living room like he was walking to his execution. His hands were shaking. His eyes were red. Mom, he said. His voice cracked. I need to talk to you. So talk. He sat down on the edge of the couch. I stayed standing. Carl stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I didn't know, Jason said. About the fire. I swear to God I didn't know what Vanessa was planning. But you knew something, I said. He nodded. Tears started running down his face. She said we needed to teach you a lesson, that you were threatening to cut us off. She said if we didn't do something, we'd lose everything. So you let her lock me out. Yes. He put his face in his hands. Yes. And I hate myself for it. Mom, I hate myself every single day for closing that door. Good, I said. You should. He looked up at me. I took the money because Vanessa said we needed it. She said we were drowning in debt. She said you'd never notice. And when you did notice, she said we'd pay you back. I believed her. You believed her instead of me. I chose her over you, he whispered. My whole life, you gave me everything. And I chose her. I'm a monster. Yes, I said. You are. He flinched like I'd hit him. But you're also my son, I continued. And I need to know the truth. Did you know she was going to start that fire? No. I swear, Mom. I had no idea. When I heard about the fire, I thought it was an accident. I thought— He stopped. I thought you were dead. And all I could think was that the last thing I'd done was close the door in your face. Carl stepped forward. The police found text messages on Vanessa's phone. Messages to a friend. Need to get rid of the old woman before she tells everyone the truth. Did you see those messages? Jason shook his head. No. She must have deleted them before I could see. But you knew she hated your mother. Yes. You knew she wanted her gone. I thought she just meant gone from our lives, not— He couldn't finish. Carl pulled out an envelope. The district attorney's office sent this. It's a plea deal. If you cooperate fully, testify against Vanessa, provide all the financial records, tell them everything you know, they'll reduce your charges from accessory to attempted murder down to financial fraud. You'd get probation instead of prison. Jason stared at the envelope. But if you don't cooperate, Carl continued, you're going down with her. Accessory to attempted murder carries a sentence of 12 to 20 years. I can't, Jason whispered. Can't what? I can't testify against her. She's my wife. She's Lily's mother. She tried to murder your mother, Carl said flatly. I know, Jason was sobbing now. I know, but if I testify, what happens to Lily? She loses both parents. She ends up in foster care. She ends up with me, I said quietly. Jason looked at me. What? I've already started the paperwork. If you and Vanessa both go to prison, I'm taking custody of Lily. Carl and I both. She'll be safe. With you? Jason's voice rose. With the woman who cut me out of her will? Who's pressing charges against my wife? With the woman who's still trying to protect her granddaughter, I said. Unlike her father. Jason stood up. You can't do this. You can't just take my daughter. Watch me, I said. Carl stepped between us. You have 48 hours to decide. Testify against Vanessa and keep some relationship with your daughter. Or stay loyal to a woman who tried to commit murder and lose everything. Jason looked at me one more time. Mom, please, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. You did this. You and Vanessa. You made these choices. Now you have to live with them. He left without another word. Carl closed the door behind him and locked it. Do you think he'll take the deal? I asked. I don't know, Carl said, but it doesn't matter. Vanessa's going to prison either way. The evidence is overwhelming. 2 days later, Jason took the deal. His lawyer called Patricia to let us know. Jason would testify against Vanessa. He'd plead guilty to financial fraud. He'd get 3 years probation and community service, and he'd lose custody of Lily. The trial was set for 2 months later. I didn't go. I couldn't. I couldn't sit in a courtroom and watch my son testify that his wife had tried to kill me. But Carl went. He came back that evening and told me everything. Vanessa had shown no remorse. She'd claimed Gloria was manipulative and controlling, that she'd been trying to protect her family, that the fire was an accident. But the evidence was too strong. The gas can in her garage, the text messages, the financial motive, Jason's testimony. The jury deliberated for 4 hours, guilty on all counts, attempted arson, attempted murder, 12 years in prison. When Carl told me, I didn't feel relieved. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. It's over, Carl said. Is it? I asked. The criminal part is. Now comes the hard part. Healing. I looked at him, this man who'd been by my side through all of it, who'd never asked for anything in return. Carl, I said quietly, why did you really come for me that night? He smiled. Because 46 years ago, I asked you to marry me, and you said no. And I spent the next 46 years wondering what would have happened if you'd said yes. When you called me, sitting on that curb, I realized I had a second chance. Not to change the past, but to be there for you now. So I came. And now? I asked. Now, he said. I'm asking you again, not to marry me, not yet, but to let me stay, to let me be here, To let me prove that someone actually cares about you. Not your money. Not what you can do for them. Just you. I started crying. I don't deserve you. Yes, he said. You do. 6 months later, Lily moved in with us. The custody hearing took 20 minutes. Jason didn't contest it. He signed the papers without looking at me. Lily's room was painted yellow. Carl's idea. He said every little girl deserves sunshine. She was quiet the first week. Polite. Careful. Like she was waiting for us to change our minds. On the 8th day, she asked, "Are you going to send me away?" "Never," I said. "You're home now." She cried. I held her, and for the first time in months, something in my chest loosened. Vanessa was serving 12 years in a women's correctional facility 2 hours away. I looked her up online once. Her Instagram was gone, her business page deleted, but someone had archived her posts. The last one was from the week before her arrest. A selfie with expensive skincare products. The caption, "Family is everything." The comments were brutal. By the time she went to prison, she'd lost 12,400 followers. From influencer to inmate, there was a certain poetry to it. Jason came to visit every Saturday. He'd bring coffee and sit on the porch with Lily. I watched from the window, never joined them. Not yet. One Saturday, he brought flowers. Lily took them and brought them inside. "Grandma, Dad wants to talk to you." I went to the door, didn't open it all the way. Jason stood there, flowers in hand, looking older than his 42 years. "I don't expect you to forgive me," he said, "but I want you to know I'm sorry. For all of it." I looked at him for a long moment. "Sorry doesn't fix what you broke." "I know, but it's a start." His eyes filled with tears. I took the flowers, closed the door, stood there for a minute. Then I opened it again. Just a crack. "Next week," I said. "You can come inside, just for a few minutes." He nodded. "Thank you, Mom." I closed the door again. Carl came up beside me. "You did good," he said. "Did I?" "Yeah, you gave him hope, but you made him earn it." 3 months later, Carl and I got married. Small ceremony in the backyard. Just Lily, Patricia the lawyer, Marcus the fire investigator, and Detective Chen. No white dress, no reception. Just 2 people who'd waited 46 years to get it right. When Carl put the ring on my finger, a replica of my mother's graduation ring, the one I'd sold for Jason, I finally understood what it meant to be chosen. Ruth wrote me a letter. 4 pages of apologies and explanations. I read it once, put it in a drawer. I wrote back, "I need time. Maybe someday I'd forgive her, but not today." Jason kept coming, every Saturday. Sometimes I let him in, sometimes I didn't. Slowly, carefully, we were building something new, not what we had before, something different, something honest. One night, Lily asked, "Do you think my dad will ever be the same?" "No," I said. "But maybe that's okay. Maybe he needed to break to become someone better." "Do you think he will? Become better?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "But I think he's trying. And that counts for something." She thought about that. Then she said, "I'm glad I'm here with you." "Me too, baby. Me too." At 68 years old, I'd lost almost everything. My house, my money, my son, my sister. But I'd gained something too. I'd gained myself back. And Carl. And Lily. And maybe that was enough. Would you have forgiven your sister? Would you have let your son back into your life? Comment below and tell me what you would have done. If you have a story like this, a moment when family betrayed you and you had to choose yourself, send it to the channel. Your story matters, and you're not alone.